is for the WWE Championship.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Alboski. There's my partner, Professor Keith, at least his voice.
Yep. That's all you need.
And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we on Around the Turnbuckle have a mystery guest.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to finish that and get us in a copyright issue.
And said mystery guest, David Motorman says he loves a great mystery, is with us at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the Wolfman.
How you guys doing tonight, Professor?
Good. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. Big Balboski, I'm doing great. I'm glad you guys had me on as a guest. I am a big surprise to everybody anyway.
You are a Pennsylvania wrestling legend and you know it. But beyond that, you're also the host of Inside the Squared Circle, which we're going to repeat many times during this broadcast. And I want everybody within the sound of my voice, when you watch this either live or if you watch this on the replay, a lot of you do, because I know there's football going on and there's a Cowboys game going on right now. Big deal. Who cares? They're going to lose to the Packers. It's no big deal. But
I don't know. The Packers are not great.
But if you do, it's 14-14 right now. But anyway, if you do watch this later on, give this guy a call on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. Wednesdays from 6 to 7:30. He does a show for WNEP, Channel 16. Plus, it's on Wolfman Baker's Facebook page, 570-846-5067. Call the man up and talk some wrestling. You could talk local wrestling. You could talk the past. You could talk the current. You could talk the future. The man just loves talking wrestling. So if you're a wrestler and you got an event coming up, that's the perfect place to call. Perfect place to call. That's what me and Keith do. We bring you guys on here promoting the events that are coming up. So 570-846-5067, Wednesdays at 6, and we'll repeat that later on. Check out Inside the Square Circle. Keith and I call in every week, and we love talking wrestling with you. Keith likes talking the old school stuff. You just like to push my buttons and make fun of me most of the time.
I like that too.
That's what friends are for.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, you know.
Wolfman, how well my Wednesday night co-conspirator? Please call in. There it is, David.
Yeah, he was missing this week, last week. He was busy working or whatever. So
he was, but you had a cold though, so I don't think he should have been near you anyway.
No, I kind of said it right there on. If you watch the video, I kind of said it. I'm going to call him anyway and tell him not to come because I didn't want him to get sick.
Exactly. So how you feeling? But first and foremost, how you feeling now?
I'm feeling a lot better than what I did last Sunday. I don't know how I got it, but Saturday night we did the show down there in Red Line at Chapel Church. Show went great and everything. I come home. I was running around a little bit Sunday doing some things I had to get done. I woke up Monday morning with a sore throat and couldn't talk.
Oh.
You know, and right away I thought, I've had all my shots and everything, but to be safe, I went and got checked to make sure I didn't have the favorite virus that everybody calls, a scam or whatever you want to call it.
My grandpa calls it the Chinese crud.
Yeah.
But
every time I went and got checked, it always says I don't have it. So maybe I have it and don't know it.
Thundercat Greg says, Wolfman, what's up, guys? Glad to be here. It's been a few weeks since I've been on here. Miss you guys. We miss you too, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to see you back.
Absolutely.
Picked a great show to do it.
So first and foremost, Wolfman, you know that we had you on and we talked about your career. We talked about the carnival, how you started in the carnival and all that. We talked about the early days of ECW, Eastern Championship Wrestling, before it was Extreme Championship Wrestling, and also your ties with and how you met Dino Sana. But by the time we got done up to that point, our hour was up. We had just scratched the surface, and I know you got 1,001 stories to tell. So first and foremost, I want your thoughts on what happened. For those who don't know, he was involved in a ladder match last month in which the control of SWO, something that's near and dear to his heart over the past 21, 22 years, was in the balance in a ladder match, and he lost to Ken Andrews.
He was robbed is what happened. Tell it correctly.
Either way, he lost, Professor. He lost.
Well,
and which means that not only Ken Andrews, but a whole crop of young talent are now kind of taking the reins in SWO. So I want you to tell us how you're feeling about all that whole situation.
Well, with the situation that's going on right now, yes, I lost the ladder match. Yes, it took 3 of them to take my title from me. It's been done before, So, Ken Andrews, I hope you have fun running the organization and everything. Last Saturday, he didn't let me wrestle. He had me parking cars, washing dishes, cleaning toilets. At least he had me at the end of the night standing there and telling everybody thanks for coming and all that, and how great Ken Andrews is and everything. But Ken Andrews, all dogs have their days, and and I hope you've been having fun at 3:00 in the morning. I don't he hears about it. I call him every night at 3:00 just to make sure that he knows somebody still loves him.
Wow. Unbelievable. So now you have an event coming up this Saturday in Seven Valleys SWO.
Yes. And
you want to talk about that, and what can we expect on that?
Well, we got a bunch of, they haven't really put everything out. I'll know more on Wednesday, but I do know that I have a match with Trent Farrow and his partners. I call them the ladies of the organization. And they told me I had to go out and get myself a partner. I went out and found a partner. I can't tell anybody who it's going to be, but if you're there, you're going to love it. I called him. He said he'd do it for me. So I'll wait to see what happens.
Well, it's good to hear you have friends in the business that will help you out when you need them.
Well, I've had a couple friends call me from back in the day. I said, hey, if you need help with Ken Andrews, they'll come in and do it for free.
I was going to say, I think Ken Andrews has stirred up the proverbial hornet's nest here, and the more he screws around with you, we've talked about that on Inside the Squared Circle, you're in a position now where you can kind of do what you want, because Ken Andrews has said, I won't let you retire and I won't fire you. So as I've said, you can almost come up, bust him in the mouth one week, walk out, and what's he going to do? Because he's already said, well, I'm not going to fire you.
Yeah, he's got his coming. He'll get his coming up like always. My daddy always told me one thing: when you get in a fight, just remember that the last person standing is the one that usually wins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my daddy also told me, you always tell your friend or your enemy hey, don't go pee, because when you're done, I might be behind you. So just remember that, Ken Andrews. I'm old school.
We do know one match, don't we, Wolf? We do know one match for SWO in Seven Valleys, and that is isn't Alan Clayball defending his championship?
Yes, Alan Clayball is defending his championship against you know more than I do, probably.
Ace Dallas.
Yeah, they kind of cut me out of the loop. You know, they're not giving me any information in that. But let's get away from Ken Andrews. You were talking about the younger generation coming up
Yes.
in the organization.
So, what's your thoughts of both a younger generation taking over the reins, so to speak, in both SWO and 3WA?
I think it's a good thing. You always need some kind of change in this business, and a lot of times the younger generation. Hey, the younger generations are going to do either two things. They're either going to make it better, or they're going to screw it up.
Right.
You know, and I don't pull no punches. I know the guys right now, and including Ken Andrews, the guys that are running the organization right now, without me being able to stick my nose in, and that, you know, them guys have it. They want to do the best they can do for the fans.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. It's not about the wrestling organization and us. It's about the fans, what they want to do for the fans. And that's what they're going to do. They're either going to make it, like I said, I can only sit back and watch what's going on. So right now, you know, we had a good 7 years with Vicious Van Valley running the organization.
Right.
We have 4 young men.
Yep.
You know, that's going to run the organization. Let's see how they do.
I'm excited to see what they bring because, you know, I know those guys as much as you do, and so does Keith. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they, you know, view the business nowadays, how they, you know, steer the company, and what, you know, in which directions and which things, which storylines, you know, kind of hang out, which storylines get started, like all that kind of cool stuff. Their creativity, you know, because that's the biggest thing with the young talent in professional wrestling is I see a lot of creative things because you can't, you know, it's almost like everything's been done before, right? But you have to take your twist on it and you have to try to tweak it and make it your own, you know. You know, I'll give you an example of that. Like the biggest example I have is Darby Allin. Darby Allin in AEW.
Right.
Like Darby Allin is a daredevil. He's a crazy person. He looks like he's emotionally disturbed. Okay, that's been done over and over and over and over and over again through the years. You know, Mick Foley, etc. Blah blah blah. It's all been done. But the way Darby puts his little twist on it, and kind of makes that character, you know, his own, is what separates him from the rest of those guys that did the same stuff 20 years ago.
But I think you've also got to have a strong infrastructure management-wise to be able to accentuate that, and I think that's been a problem when it comes to folks like Darby and knowing the people that are going to be, you know, as you say, running the SWO and running that, having talked to them about kind of their theory of the business. What impresses me about them is they very much respect what's come before and kind of that classic mentality, because I always say you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This business has worked for, 100 years, I think, at this point. It's worked, it's stuck around, and yes, you've got to try to keep things fresh and you've got to reinvent things. But there's also only so many reasons people can get in a fight, and those reasons are universal. Since we were cave people, that works. You don't have to go out there and completely change what's worked. You just have to find a way to, as Al said, accentuate it and put your twist on it.
Yep. Well, back in the day in SWO, most of the times when I was running the company, and you know, Ken Andrews said that I haven't done the best, you know, for SWO and all that. But back when I was running it, anytime you wanted to see a heel or you want to bring a heel up, they'd attack the main face in the company.
Right.
And at the time, I happen to be the main face. Now I'm the main old face, but now maybe these guys will build a face up that going to be able to. And I know my days are coming. My days are numbered. I'm in my 60s, and I know I can't keep doing what I'm doing in that ring. And in a way, it scares me, and I'm going to have to step away. But in a way, right now, I know that if I would turn around and I would leave tomorrow and not be here on the face of this earth, I know the SWO is in good hands right now. With what I got.
I
Uh,
agree.
so I'm hoping that the other guys can handle Ken Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
And Ken's one of them guys that he's not always friendly, but and I learned that the hard way. He suckered me in. I attacked him like he wanted me. I know he wanted me to do that just so he could get control of the company. But and I've had it happen to me many other times. So I'm hard headed and that, but the, the company's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Let's talk about when I got into the business.
Go ahead.
When,
Yeah, let's.
when I got into the business, it's not like it is today. You've been talking about the stuff that they have on at WWE putting out there and everything.
Yep.
You know, in the independent circuit, it was just as bad back when I started. And there was times that I would go to shows, we'd set up a ring, and my daughter would be with me. Before the show started, nobody knew who my kids were up until probably, I'd say, 15 years ago when it got better, back in the 90s, the late 90s, when it started getting better in the business. And that, but I was, my own brother threatened the man that I was wrestling because the man that I was wrestling busted me open the hard way. Excuse me.
Cats.
This is Jack. Say hi, Jack. But Jack likes to see what Dad's doing.
Yeah.
And he gets in there and likes getting up on the table. But I was wondering when he was going to show up. But I was working a gentleman named Max Thrasher, and this was in the early, around 80, I think it was like 82, 81, 82, when I first started training and everything. But we did a show in York here at a fire company, and Max Thrasher at the time was just getting ready to become a principal at a school here in York, and he cut his hair and he wore a mask. Well, my brother knew Max Thrasher, the guy that trained me, and my brother knew him because of coming over to the house and all that stuff every once in a while. But the day and night of the show, Max busted me open. I started bleeding. My brother was at the show and he had a gun. Licensed to carry. He was a security guard. He's licensed to carry and everything. And he told Max Thrasher, when you come in, he told the guy under the mask, when you come out, I'm going to shoot you. And Max went back to the locker room, took his mask off, and he came out and helped started tearing down the ring after the show was over. And my brother's sitting there talking to me, telling me, I can't wait until he comes out. I'm going out to see if he comes outside. I'm going to shoot him. I said, you don't want to go shooting the man. He just wrestled me, busted me open, so what? But I never smartened my family up about wrestling back then. Now it seems like my whole family has something to do with the organization. There has my sister working the front door. My daughter helps every once in a while. My grandson helps. They all help. But, back then it was dangerous to have family involved. There it goes again. Goodbye, Jack. Yeah.
Right, because as you're saying, 81, 82, there's still a certain level of kayfabe. It's hard to break in. There's not schools everywhere like there is now. You're not going to smarten people up that are not in the business. You've still got to keep the secrets and you've got to keep it guarded, right?
Yep. And when I started, I wasn't wrestling as Wolfman at that time. I was wrestling as Rick Milestone. And I was just learning. So I didn't get a whole lot of wins under my belt and all that, but it was fun doing what I did. But if it wouldn't have been for Max Thrasher, my career wouldn't be what it is today. I wouldn't be that legend that everyone says I am. I don't let that go to my head. Uh, I'm glad that people think that way. Because I never say I'm the best worker in the world because I'm not. I just know how to entertain.
Yeah, I mean, on Inside the Squared Circle, I mean, you throw stuff out. I didn't get a chance to call in this week. I tried, but you just casually threw out at one point that you work with Terry Funk, and I was like, well, now I have to get on there and I have to ask questions about that. Like, you work with Terry Funk. I love Terry Funk. I'm one of that minority camp that thinks you could potentially make an argument that Terry Funk is better than Ric Flair.
Well, I could make that argument too. But here's the thing: when I wrestled Terry Funk, it was in the Eastern Championship Wrestling. It wasn't ECW quite yet. They were just turning, getting all the bells and whistles going on for the hardcore and all that stuff to come into the organization. And I was still working with Max Thrasher. Max was still doing shows with Eastern Championship Wrestling. We were setting up and tearing down the ring for them. They were using our ring. They didn't buy a ring yet. So I get there, and after we get done setting up the ring, they come to me and they say, "You're working Terry Funk tonight." I'm not going to say what they told me, what he was going to do to me, and all that stuff. And I was crap out of luck, you know. I was going to get my handed to me and everything.
Right, because at that point, Funk is the biggest star that they've got. He's in there. I think he's said over time, like Todd Gordon contacted him as a favor to come in and try to make something of the promotion. And Terry, had said to him, like, Todd, don't do it. You're going to lose your ass in the wrestling business. Nobody makes money at this. Don't do it. But Todd was insistent. And Terry said, all right, if you're going to do it and you're not going to listen to me, then I'll come down there and I'll wrestle some matches for you and I'll try to help you make a go of this.
Yeah, and he had a great group of guys. He had a great group of guys that came in, at the time when I first started there, I don't know why I won't be able to think of his name, but the one that was running the organization when I got in, I actually have his crown and everything.
Eddie Gilbert. Eddie Gilbert was the booker then.
Eddie Gilbert was booking at that time, and Paulie was coming in and doing spots here and there. I was actually there the night that Chris Benoit, it was Chris Benoit. It was the four guys that all came from overseas. Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah,
Perry Saturn, and
Dean Malenko.
We actually did a skit with them guys in a bar in Philadelphia, and we were sitting there, and they came in, and we were making fun of wrestlers, and they beat us up. And it was fun to do. It was something that at the time I got to get beat up by four guys that were already considered legends in their time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame that one of them won't ever be in the Hall of Fame, but it's there.
Yeah.
Right. So sorry about my cat, but
that's okay. No. I have one myself. I know how it works. Whenever you're doing something, they're like, "Oh, let me be a part of this too," because if you're not paying attention to me, you're not doing your job.
He was a cat that came along. I don't like cats. I didn't like cats. I call him my dog though, but I didn't like cats. We moved up here to the trailer where we're living now, and my grandson and them came back to Lane from school. They're coming back from school, and he had a bag in his hand, and he said, "Pat, somebody just threw this bag out of the car, and there's 2 kittens in it." And he was a kitten at the time. We took him to the vet and made sure he was all right, and he wasn't hurting that, and we were going to give him to the SPCA the next day. Well, the SPCA never got the SPCA.
Never got him.
He come home, and he did just what he's doing right now. He just started loving me to death, and we belong together.
Mhm.
This is the only thing that makes the Wolfman, you know, what would you call it?
Melt.
Melt, yeah. He makes me love the heck out of it. Come
I
on,
love it.
you know. But he's telling everybody, and I'm a nice guy.
So on Inside the Squared Circle, I asked you about whether or not you've been paying attention to that Tales from the Territories, because I thought that would interest you. Some of those stories, some of those old timers tell. Did you get a chance to see any of those, and what are your thoughts on that?
I've watched a couple. I got to see a couple of them. I got to see the one with the what was
Memphis. I think you saw Memphis.
I seen the Memphis
Mhm.
one, and I also seen the one with the Butcher, and I seen
That
bits
was
and pieces of that one.
Stampede.
Stampede.
I got to see bits and pieces of that, and the stories them guys tell, you know, they're telling the truth. It's not kayfabe or
Right.
anything. Back in the day, none of that stuff would have got out.
Right.
Right.
The way wrestling is nowadays, it's a lot easier to let stuff get out. But I don't honestly I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I'd have been one of them guys that I probably would have been in prison or something, because somebody back and to this day people say wrestling's fake.
Right.
You know, it's a show. It's something that we do. We put it on, and how can it be fake when we're coming off the top rope and coming out of the ring on top of each other,
Yeah.
and something happens and you miss? I mean, I've seen guys get crippled because of
Mhm.
mistakes that's been made in this business. You know,
I've been made fun of my whole life from being a wrestling fan, and the classic line I get is, "Oh, that shit's fake. Why do you watch that shit?" And my classic rebuttal to that is, these guys are athletes. They put their bodies on the line for my entertainment, not just mine, but millions around the world.
Yep.
Entertainment. And whether the winners are predetermined, whether the storylines or whatever you want to call it, it's more entertaining to me to be sitting in an arena, whether I'm watching 3WA, SWO, WWE, AEW, whatever. It's more thrilling to me to watch that sitting there, and I will enjoy myself for 2-3 hours more than sitting at home watching like the NFL.
right?
Or sitting at home watching baseball. And I love both of those things. All right. But or another one I get is, well, if you're a fan of wrestling, why don't you like MMA? Because MMA is not for everybody. That's why. Because MMA is guys trying to either knock each other out or choke or make you tap.
And you know what's funny too? MMA is using a lot of wrestling's tricks now. And the same people that will go nuts for MMA will tell you what bullshit wrestling is and how stupid wrestling is. And it's like, guys, they're doing the exact same stuff. They're cutting promos on each other. They're hyping up their matches. I wouldn't be shocked if we find out one day that, maybe somebody agreed to go a round longer or something like that, that there's been a couple of side deals there. Not that they're outright working it, but just that there's been a few times where it's like, okay, well, I could probably beat you in 30 seconds, but this is a big pay-per-view and that's not going to make a lot of money. So why don't we wait until the second round and then see what happens? Or, let's go to a third round and see what happens. Like, let's draw it out a little bit. Because that's what happened with wrestling. It was a shoot until I think it was Hackenschmidt and Gotch got into a 2 out of 3 falls match. And Hackenschmidt says to Gotch, well, hey, I'm hurting a little bit here. I'm not up to snuff. So, maybe I take one, you take one, and let's see what happens in the third fall. And then that actually led to wrestling's first double cross, because then Gotch took that information and beat him in 2 straight falls and ruined him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, It's what you make of it, you know. Um, we're all. I believe MMA is fake anyway. You know, I'm the first one to tell you that.
Well, that's another discussion.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling. Everyone says wrestling's fake. I mean, these guys go out and they beat the living crap out of. I mean, in MMA, they beat the heck out of each other, right? But after the show's over, you see them leave. They're not limping and hurting them. The guy might have just got a broken leg.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, the next day you see him, he's walking on that leg and he's not limping at all. So how is it broke?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it could be
What's
that,
up,
but I
Big
think,
Chris?
hey, Chris, but I mean, I think part of it too is it's just there's so much misinformation about wrestling where people will go, well, they don't get hurt because the ring's a trampoline. The ring's not a trampoline. It's canvas over plywood over a spring that, depending on the ring, has very little give to it. Or, oh, they know how to fall. Great. If you figure out how to fall off a 20-foot ladder onto, again, canvas and plywood, or a hard ass floor with no pretty blue mats on it, and you're not hurt, you didn't get at least a bruise off of that, you can get up from that and feel hunky dory. Tell us your secret, Superman, because I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, every day I get in that, every time I get in that ring, the next day, it takes my family members to get me out of bed. I mean,
Yeah, well, and you yourself can blame that, your age for that. But I talked to Greg the Mechanic Manual after a match one time where he could barely walk out there during the intermission to do autographs, and he's in his young 20s.
yeah, he's 21. He's 21 years old.
Right. So I
Mhm.
mean, it doesn't matter the age. He's still, if you have a rough night, if you have a rough match, or if things happen, and I
Yeah,
respect the hell out of everybody that's ever walked down the aisle and walked in and jumped into that ring and put their body on the line for my entertainment. That I respect each and every one that's ever done that.
absolutely.
I always
You
tell
tell him, Professor, it goddamn hurts, says
Yep.
Nico Gray.
Especially what your ass does, you crazy man. Out there with like light tubes and barbed wire and whatever he can get his hands on.
Wolfman, do you think that Nico Gray is going to dethrone JT Cage?
no,
Oh,
no.
that's a blunt answer right there.
Why
Why not?
Wolfman's been in the ring with at least JT Cage. I don't know if he's been in there with Nico Gray at all, but I know he's very familiar with JT Cage.
Well, Wolfman is saying that no. Why are you saying no? Just because it's hard to bet against Cage when he's had it for so long?
It's hard to bet against Cage, but Nico Gray, yeah, I mean, maybe he could get lucky and beat him, you know. But the way his career is right now, the stuff he's doing, the crazy stuff he's doing, he's not going to be around long. He's going to hurt himself real bad, and it's good. It's good to live the life of the old days, the ECW days, and all that.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
you got to realize ECW isn't around anymore.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, and all the guys that were in ECW, where are most of them guys at?
Either the graveyard or the convention scene, retired, because unless you were a guy like a Guido or somebody like that where you were getting over with your technical wrestling, you
Mhm.
can't do that for very long. I mean,
I mean,
people will sit there, I'm sure, and look at like the barbed wire and stuff and go, oh, that was rubber tip. No, it was not rubber tip. That was
Well,
real ass barbed wire that they
to
were
your
throwing
point,
each other into.
Professor, Chris Vant was impressed with Logan Paul against Roman. For a non-wrestler, he did some crazy high-flying, risk-your-body shit.
that's
Yeah.
one. He went out there and he put a show on, but the kid's an athlete. The kid,
He is.
He is. Yep.
and he did everything. Yeah, everyone said he was trained. He was told how to do that match. That match was a great match. It was put together for Roman and him to do. And
Right.
both of them pulled it off perfect.
Yep.
You know? So
Yeah, and he got injured. I mean, if it's so fake, the man got injured in 2 different parts of his body.
Yeah, like I say, tell me again how you jump off the top rope through a table onto another human being and you don't hurt yourself. Because again, if you can figure that out, you are not human. You are probably from Krypton.
right. And let's get back to Nico Gray.
Sure, Nico Gray.
I'm not cutting down on the kid. The kid's a good worker. But I'd like to see him wrestle more and he does the hardcore stuff. I think
Wrestle more than fight. Well, he's a fighter.
Exactly. He's a fighter.
Yeah.
And he's good at what he does. But I think he could be better if he.
Well, I mean, when you're in a hardcore match against JT Cage, he uses every advantage and every weapon he can get his hands on. I mean, the guy's going to have to, sink down to that level to beat him. Plus, the original family's barred from ringside, so this is his best chance.
The original family is barred.
Yes.
What's stopping JT paying somebody else to come out there? And he's offered people money to come out and interfere in his match if he was losing. So I've been in the locker room. I know what's going on behind the scenes. And so what? The family's not allowed to be there. But I guarantee you, somebody's going to come out there and help JT.
Okay,
That guy knows a lot of people.
Yes.
Well, Brickhouse is going to be allowed out there.
Well, there you go. If Brickhouse allowed out there, the Hat Guy's going to be somewhere.
Yep, Hat Guy. I did see Hat Guy on the posters. The Hat Guy will be allowed out there and Brickhouse will be allowed out there. But again, to your point, Wolfman, you're absolutely correct. What stops Hat Guy from paying off somebody that's not in the original family to come out and do a hit for him? Because we know, and I know Al's not going to credit it because the original family's got him on the payroll somehow. He's their advance man. They're not above paying somebody off to do a quick hit. They did it at the last show. Yeah, it turned out to be top shelf Tyler Sims, so Hat Guy probably saved a couple bucks on that one. But he's not above taking a shot like that if it protects his meal ticket. And right now, JT Cage is his meal ticket. JT Cage is his only champion.
Mm-hmm.
My only problem with that statement, Keith, is that you don't know that you don't know that a Hat Guy paid off or gave any money to Top Shelf Tyler Sims.
I don't think he did because Top Shelf Tyler Sims has a pre-existing deal with him. That's why I'm saying I think he saved some money on that one.
Well, also you don't know if he instructed Top Shelf Tyler. How do we don't know Top Shelf Tyler Sims didn't do that on his own accord?
Because the Hat Guy says it himself. He always has a plan. He's always the mastermind behind these things. Once again, you're on the payroll when it comes to the original family. Your bias is shocking.
I haven't seen a dime. I don't know what you're talking about.
Then you're shilling for nothing. You're a bad businessman, sir.
You never do anything for free. You don't save another guy for free. It costs something.
Oh, man.
It always costs something to get saved.
Yeah.
I got you. What do you think? So what do you think of the new leadership in in 3WA? We talked about SWO. What do you think the direction that's going to happen with them?
Well, I'm kind of gun shy. I don't want to really get too. Dino Santa has done a heck of a job keeping that organization going all these years.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
He picked the people that he wanted to keep the show going with. So he trusts the ones that are running the organization right now. And I think he made a good choice with Paul and Paul's daughter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see them going a long way with it, but I don't see Dino just up and bailing out neither. Dino will always be.
Yeah, he'll never completely go away.
Yeah.
He'll help any way he can, but when it comes to like putting shows together, putting matches together, she's going to take that burden off his shoulders.
Yep.
But he'll still be there.
And what really impresses me is when I watch the shows, I see that Katie is there watching everything. She's always, you can see her. She's walking around. She's checking on everything. She's right there as close to the ring as she can get, making sure everything is going off without a hitch. I mean, obviously, I'm not in the back, so I don't know what she says in the locker room, if anything, to you guys. But to me, from what I can see front of house, she looks like she's on top of everything and she's making sure that things are going the way they're supposed to go.
And she's doing a heck of a job. I mean, she's doing a heck of a job. The time that she's taken over and done what she's done, the organization is just as good as it's always been.
Yep.
Yeah, she already had the advantage of already kind of growing up in the business, right? And she had her dad there, she had Dino there, she had other influences there as she grew up and learned. So taking over at her age, if you had somebody else take over at that age, might not have the advantages that Katie has. I think Katie stepping in there and as we've seen already in the few shows that she's booked, knows what she's doing, and like Keith said, stays on top of everything. Looks like she cares, at least from the outside. If we're sitting out there as fans, we see her standing in the corner every match, making sure this is what's going on and blah, 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 and paying attention to what's going on. She doesn't disappear. She's at every show. Do you know what I'm saying? So it makes me feel like she cares about the business, and you can't teach that. That's you either do or you don't.
Right.
Wolfman, do you have a favorite match that you were in your career that you would like? Wow, that was a crazy match. Big Chris is asking from South Carolina.
Well, the one that I always go back to. There's been a lot of good matches through the years that I've had. Terry Funk, that's one of the top ones that I talk about. The Butcher.
Abdullah the Butcher, yeah.
Yeah, the Butcher.
You know, that's another one.
Well, that's a story in itself.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
That's a story in itself. I've told that story a bunch of different times, and it never changes because, to be honest with you, I didn't remember the whole match. All I knew is he laid across me with all his weight that he had to keep me there and to get me counted out because I just kept getting up.
Yep, because at some point you got knocked out on your feet.
I got concussed and I was out of it. I didn't know what was going on, but that was one of the great matches that was one of the biggest matches that I say. If it would have been earlier in the night, the match might have went different.
Right.
Not have got concussed and all that, but we were in a hurry trying to get the match over. It was 11:30 at night, and the show should have been over 2 hours before that. You know?
Right.
But King Kong Bundy was another match that I had. I worked Bundy, and all I remember I remember a lot of the stuff with Bundy, but one of the biggest things he told me when he pinned me, I knew I was going to get beaten. That's fine with me.
Right.
But when he said, when I splash you, he says, when I put you down, you go to your belly and you stay there. You don't roll over and onto your back. He says, you stay on that belly. Because when he splashed me, it was a lot better taking that splash on my back and my belly on the mat, and it would have been belly to belly.
Right.
Big bellies don't give.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts like that. Believe me. I
believe you. So there's some names for you, Chris. Terry Funk, Abdullah the Butcher, King Kong Bundy. I told you this man has had a great run. I mean, he's had a wonderful run over the past almost 40 years now, 30 plus years.
You can't forget Jimmy Snuka.
Okay.
No, yeah, Snuka was everywhere.
Nikita and Ivan and Nikita Koloff. I got to work them back in Eastern. I got to work Ivan in Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Right. Ivan was there early on until I think just before it became extreme. I remember that.
Yep.
Morocco was there too. Did you cross paths with Morocco at all?
I did cross paths with Don Morocco. Uh, I got introduced to the spike that he used to use, the thumb. Um, but there's been a lot of guys through the years that I've got to work. I forget half the guys I've worked, but you know, there's been a lot of the good ones out there, and I just hope this next couple of years that I got planned to keep myself doing something. I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't know how long, you know, how long is Ken Andrews going to be able to handle getting called every morning at 3:00?
Well, I know that you'll keep, no matter what happens, you'll keep doing Inside the Squared Circle. Am I wrong?
No, I'll keep doing Inside the Squared Circle until the TV show or TV company says you can't do it no more.
Right.
And guys, if you haven't,
because we're all in it for life, right? We have
yeah,
to be involved in it somehow at this
yep,
point. We can't quit it.
Yeah,
no,
you don't get in this business, and I mean, don't get me wrong. There's people that comes to training to be trained
yeah,
and wants to do it so bad. Okay, they might be there 2-3 months learning. It takes a while to learn how to get out there and take the bumps we take,
mm-hmm,
do the moves we do. It takes a while to learn that stuff.
mm-hmm,
Right.
And after you're in the training center for about a month, you know, the bumps come natural. But before that month is over, a lot of guys quit because
right,
them bumps are rough on your body. You know, taking a bump is getting knocked down, and you know, is not easy. You know, it's not normal. The stuff we do is not normal for our body. But
right.
No.
some of the most perfect bumps I've ever seen, believe it or not. Now, I'm gonna ask you, where do you think the most perfect bump from the most perfect person, kids that can do it, where would it come from? You ever see a baby take a bump? When they start learning how to walk, you ever see them take a butt bump?
Yeah, like just fall straight back on their butt. Yeah,
Yeah. Or if they fall, they don't put their hands behind them. They don't catch themselves. Like we're taught not to catch ourselves
right,
when we take a bump. Well,
Mhm.
we're young, we're not taught that, but we do that. As you
naturally,
get older,
Right.
you forget not catch yourself, and you try to catch yourself. That's how you get broken arms and broken legs and all that from
right,
falling on ice and everything. But if you just take a bump or take a natural fall without catching yourself, 9 times out of 10 you're not going to get hurt.
right.
You know.
And if you want to call up Wolfman on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock from 6 to 7:30, the number is 570-846-5067. Inside the Squared Circle, he talks local wrestling, he talks mainstream, he talks whatever you want to talk about. And if you're a pro wrestler who has worked with him before or who works with him right now in SWO, it's the perfect venue to call and talk about what's going on in SWO. He usually has his partner in crime, David Motorman, there with him, and they just love hearing from everybody. Keith and I call all the time, and we just try to stir the pot and get these guys going. But it doesn't take much.
I've had a lot of guys come in and sit down with me and do the show, but Dave's been there for a while. I had a gentleman named Todd before the virus hit. He used to come in and do the show with me. I miss the heck out of Todd. He's moved on. He's doing things with football, with high school football and basketball and all that. And
Mm-hmm.
he's got a heck of an announcing career going on right now. And so I wish him all the luck in the world. You know, I'd love to have him come in and sit alongside of me one more time. And so if Todd, by any chance you hear this or see I'm talking about, anytime you want to come in and sit down alongside the Wolfman, you're welcome.
Big Chris Vance says, how many years you been wrestling? You said you mentioned 81, didn't you? 81?
Yep. I started while I started setting up rings before I actually started wrestling.
Sure.
Um,
Mhm.
and in 80, I'm saying 81 was my first match, but I don't think it was 81. It might have been. Um,
And for context, kids, if you were born in 1981, you're over 40.
Mhm.
I'm just saying.
I was like, started out with the NWA, helped setting up and tearing down rings. I did that. Got involved in that, jumping a fence and at a carnival, and they were setting up for a show, and I went in, and so I got hooked up with uh, them guys, the NWA, and I believe my first match wasn't in 81. It was, I'm saying 84, 85 it was.
Okay.
I think that was my first actual match in the ring because I was still working at the time when I started messing around with. When I first started messing around, I forget a lot of things now. My head bumped around so much. I'd have to try to go back and find some stuff that I have written down and everything. But it was 81 when I first got hooked up with Earl Hebner and them. Because wasn't it 85 or it was 85 or 95 when they went and changed their name from NWA to WCW?
That was 85.
That would have been no. That would have been 89 when Turner bought the remnants of Jim Crockett, because you had the NWA when you started. The territories would have still been alive.
Yes,
By around 85, 86, everything is consolidating into Crockett because Crockett is still the strongest NWA promoter, and Vince has either run everybody else into bankruptcy or has bought them, and most of the old promoters have gotten out at that point. So they rallied around Crockett because Crockett was still the strongest. By about 88, 89, Crockett figures out, oh God, I've overextended myself too much and we're bankrupt. I got to sell. Ted Turner comes in and says, well, you guys have always done good for me on TBS. I want this to keep going. So he buys Crockett and rebrands it as WCW.
right.
Well, I knew it wasn't 95.
No, 95. We would have been well into WCW versus the WWF, and that was when WCW got Hogan signed.
You're right.
Yeah.
Mark Bushhold says, "Hey y'all."
And Mark,
He also says, "Cage buried you, Wolfman."
Yeah, you're right.
Ragged Ether certainly helped.
What's up, guys? Always tuning in. I enjoyed the interview. Mikey Rivera, aka Mikey Raw. What do you think of Mikey Raw, Wolfman?
Who's Mikey Raw?
Mikey Raw, he's been wrestling for 3WA lately. He was in a triple threat match, and he's scheduled to wrestle Greg the Mechanic Manuel for the High Impact Championship. He's the dude with the Sixers shirt on all the time.
The young kid, Mike. Well,
Yeah.
I think he's good. I think he's going to be real good. He's one of the one. He's the one that went and picked up the two guys from the airport the other week.
Yes.
I know who you're talking about now.
And he's gets a High Impact Championship match on the 26th in Quakertown.
All I can say, kid's hungry. So
He is.
maybe he gets lucky. Greg Manuel's got married. He's got a kid on the way. He's got a lot of things on his mind.
Sure.
If he's not watching what he's doing that night, if his mind ain't where it's supposed to be when you're in that ring, if your mind ain't in that ring, you never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And the next time Wolfman's in action is in Seven Valleys on this Saturday on the 19th of November in Seven Valleys for SWO. and then we'll be back at Quakertown for 3WA on the 26th. That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
And then December 3rd, we have the SWO has a show down at down in Red Line at the church again, and it's actually a benefit show for an organization. They go overseas to Guatemala and all that, and they're missionaries, and they came to us and asked if we could help raise money, and we're doing a benefit show on the 3rd of December there at the church at Chapel Church for them, and it's going to be it's a good cause. So if you're able to come out December 3rd, come on out. It's going to be a great time. Yeah,
wonderful.
I love good causes.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, what's up? We see you, brother. SWO for life. That's right. Absolutely. Hi, Wolfman, says Andy.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Andy.
All right, man. We're gonna about wrap this up. We done talked for an hour again.
Yeah, we didn't go too far into some of the things I wanted to tell you about. But you know something? There's always a third time.
Yes, we can absolutely do it again.
At least this time, the professor was here in spirit, at least with the picture. Maybe the next time I'll be able to see his beautiful face in real life. So
it's like my dad in the wrestling business. The Wolfman is.
He is. He totally is.
It's fun. I'm trying to think of something crazy. My cat ain't in here right now, but he'll be giving me heck because I chased him out of here. He scratched me in my neck while I was laying here on my neck.
Oh, yeah, they're devious that way. It's love, 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 and then, oh, by the way, I'm a dangerous, vicious creature.
I wasn't paying attention to him enough, I think.
Yep.
So we're going to get out of here. Again, we spent the last hour with the Wolfman. I support SWO. We know, Andy. I see you all the time at those shows, man. I'm glad you enjoy SWO. So do we. And the next SWO show is this Saturday in Seven Valley. So I hope we see you there.
Yep.
And Wolfman will be there. And if you want to call in the Wolfman show one more time, I'm going to throw that number up. It's 570-846-5067 on Inside the Squared Circle, starting at 6 o'clock. So even if you're not watching on TV or on Facebook, you can start calling that number at 6, and he'll answer the phone. If you get a busy signal, keep trying because he loves to talk to everybody and anybody about wrestling, about SWO,
when you get a business,
whatever you want. What's that?
You get a business single, it's usually I'm talking to one of you two guys.
Absolutely.
True. And I know from experience, it does not take much to get a Wolfman story going. It really does not. And it's always worth it.
Absolutely. As has been this hour. Professor, next week on this channel at 6 o'clock, the return of Prince Piranha.
Nice. Talk some Ravens.
Talk some Ravens, absolutely. That's next Saturday or next Sunday at 6 o'clock right here on YouTube and Facebook. Check us out and follow us for more information for what we're going to do and where we're going to be. We will definitely be in Seven Valleys on the 19th, and we'll definitely be in Quakertown for the 26th to come hang out and watch some great wrestling. If you're in the area, if you're in the York area, Lancaster area, SWO is where you want to be. If you're in the Allentown, Bethlehem, Quakertown area, Quakertown's where you want to be this week. Also, I want to throw a big shout out there to the boys at Outbreak. Me, Mark Mest, our mutual friend Wolfman. Me, Mark Mest, and Ryan Vox and the boys had a great show. I heard in Hamburg Saturday night at the historic Hamburg Fieldhouse, where they rebranded Outbreak Wrestling to change it to American Excellent Wrestling or American Excellence Wrestling. And that is AXW for short. So Outbreak Wrestling has become AXW. So if you're interested in Outbreak and interested in what they're doing next, they have a whole new schedule they put up an entire schedule for 2023 at the Hamburg Fieldhouse for AXW. So check it out.
Yes, great building. Very sorry I couldn't get out there yesterday. I was feeling a little under the weather, but
So was I.
I was there in spirit, guys. Great organization, great talent there. Can't say enough good things about AXW and everybody involved in AXW. Top-notch crew.
Kudo to Ryan Vox and the boys for what you guys do. And it was awesome that you had Kevin Kelly was there. I heard the Sandman was there as well, signing autographs. So great show last night. Great time had by all. I heard, and we wish nothing but the best for AXW and everybody involved there, of course. Well, Wolfman, you got any final words for us, my brother?
Be safe out there, and say hi to Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Yeah, he'll be with me the rest of the night.
All right, Wolfman, don't go anywhere when we go off the air. For the professor and the one and only Wolfman, I'm the Big Alboski. This was Around the Turnbuckle. We'll see you guys next Sunday at 6 with Piranha.
You think you know me?
Oh, yeah. If you smile.